Welcome back to a very special episode of the Boostly podcast. In this episode, what we're going to do is we are going to fine tune and we are going to optimize a host of Boostly, a client of Boostly, a Boostly team members, PriceLabs and Dynamic Pricing live with the founder, one of the co-founders of PriceLabs, Anurag Verma. Anurag, if you don't know, he's one of the co-authors of the book Diet Blueprint, one of the co-founders of PriceLabs, and has a fantastic product. And we've been working with CUNY Perez based in Orlando. And over the course of this year, we've been optimizing everything about the business for direct bookings, but most importantly, to get it bookings. Because when we first came in, the bookings were brassic. There was not many bookings. It's just started up last November. January is a bit there, but now thankful to say the property's getting full. Now the property's getting full, but there's a reason why. And it's not because of the amazing property and not because of the amazing listings, but because of how the pricing was set up. And you can argue now, because he was ahead of the market, the pricing was too low. So by optimizing PriceLabs and by putting in some real places, and we're going to get this optimized live with the founder of PriceLabs, we're able to pinpoint some unique things that we can do. We've implemented them, and I'm going to be really excited to check back and report back on this later on in the year to show the benefits of this. So without further ado, let me flip the screen. This is a Zoom call between me and Mr. Verma of PriceLabs. Thank you very much again, Anurag, for doing this. And do go check out PriceLabs, PriceLabs. I'll leave the logo up here. Go and check it out and make sure that you are optimizing your dynamic pricing for more profit. Okay, Anurag, so thank you very much for doing this. We're obviously looking at Escape Bookings and CUNY's account here to try and see if we can tweak any additional revenue per booking, because obviously Orlando, there's a lot of properties down there. It's a very up and down market, and in the past CUNY's just had a set rate, and obviously when you have a set rate, you miss out on such potential revenue that you could have. So yeah, excited to dig into this. Thank you for doing it, and so I'll pass on to yourself, and let's see what we can unearth with all this juicy data.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing this and getting me on your mark. But getting into this, so this is what CUNY would probably see when he logs in any day to PriceLabs, right? When I look at this account and his property, just without even getting into the details, just looking at some basic settings, the minimum price and the base price, and some performance metrics, there is one thing that clearly jumps out to me. So two things are happening. His minimum price is $239. He's saying never go below $239. He's in some way set that as his operational minimum price. And then the base price, he's set it as like $3 more than the minimum price. Now, base price is sort of, we think of it as on average across the year, across the highs, across the lows, how much would you want to sell at, right? Now, if your base is 242, it means that during low season and during low demand periods, we would try to go lower, but there's not really much room left here, right? So generally speaking, we say there should be at least a 10 to 15% difference between these two numbers, right? So one of these two numbers has to move. It's either 239 has to go lower or 242 has to go higher. Now, which one should move becomes is the question. And in this case, it's very easy for me to see. And that's because if I look at his 7-day occupancy, it's sitting at 100%, comfortably beating the market. 30-day occupancy is like in the upcoming 30 days, how much are you booked? How much is the market booked? Again, comfortably beating the market. And next 60-day occupancy, again, comfortably beating the market. So like there is room in the base price to go a little bit higher because he's doing well. He's like, and this is sometimes like this one comfortably beating the market is what you want to see. There are plenty of markets where the occupancy in the next 30 days is, or in the next 7 days is, 40%. And you don't want to be like 45%. Yes, you're beating the market, but not by much. And there's plenty of room. Like I would rather be like twice as booked rather than be 45% booked, right? As long as it's coming at a good price. Like it shouldn't be that to be 2x occupied, you're cutting your price by a third and making less money in return, right? But But if all three numbers are comfortably beating the market, then I generally say, okay, there's room here to bump it up. We'll see some of that when we dig into the details. So let's go into the property itself. And these are the settings that we had talked about, like the minimum price and the base price. And if I click over at help me choose the base price, let's see what it says. What you'll see here is it's saying that we are recommending that the base price be 253. So we are asking like a 5% bump. So not the 10-15% that I had hoped for, but we're saying, hey, you're performing well enough that you can try bumping the price a little bit up. And what's happening here, that we are basically saying you're booking better than the market, and we generate these recommendations every week. We are looking at your property and seeing how it's performing and saying, do you need the base price to be higher or lower? Base price, for anyone who hasn't been into PriceLabs, is sort of the key starting point in some ways, which is reflective of the listings, how good the listing is, pretty much that. And there is I've chosen the words very carefully here. I'm saying how good the listing is and not how good the property is, because you could have a great property, and if the pictures are bad, if the copy is bad, if the title is bad and it's not getting booked, then it's a poor listing. And what gets booked by people online is the listing. People stay at the property, people book the listing, right? So as the property doesn't change over time, but the listing description might improve, and that might be part of it, right? Like that over time, maybe this base price of 242 was fine, but as your property gets more, as your listing gets more reviews, as your listing you improve the copy, you improve things, it'll start performing better. And as it performs better, our system recognizes that and says, hey, look, for the same property now, you're doing better. You should be able to raise prices given how well you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that base price is an essential starting point for us to say, we recommend one. We show you what the market is charging. So market, surprisingly, is very close to what 5 and 6 bedrooms in the location are. This is what he must have chosen in his account already to say, hey, this is what I compete against. And again, he's saying he's an upscale property. So like he has picked these filters and said, okay, market is at 238, and he picked 242. Now we are saying you can go even higher. Like you're doing well, essentially, right? So that's one. Now, the reason it becomes important is this listing is in this property is in Orlando, a little bit away from Orlando, but in the Orlando area. And you'll see that for spring break, generally speaking, the price is like the base price is 242, but most of the spring break, like March, is booked. A ton of April is also booked. A lot of the midweek in here is sitting at that 239. It's sitting at that minimum price. And the minimum price, at least for us, is sort of a threshold. It says our algorithm might be recommending going a little further down, but you said 239, we're going to stick to 239. And you'll see that what seems to be happening, crazily enough, is a lot of the dates that are unbooked are sitting at that 239. So if he reduces the base price a little, the minimum price a little bit, there might be a little more activity on those dates that are going unbooked. So there might be some room to play there as well, essentially. Does that?
Well, the question I have here.
So far, yeah.
The question I have is with the base price. Obviously, there's a recommended one, but he has to come into this piece to see it and change it. Is there a way with PriceLabs that the base price will always be set to what your recommended price will be? Is there an automated way of doing this?
Not yet, but coming up later this month is, you know how I looked at all of these numbers and said, I think you should increase the base price, and then I went into there.
Yeah.
We will start showing you that recommendation right here and tell you that, hey, even if you don't go, there'll be an accept button here to say, yeah, just let's do it. Yeah.
Nice. Very nice.
Is,
and will there the same thing be there for the minimum price, or is that just for the base price?
To start off, we are doing it with the base price, but we'll also want to do it with the minimum price because they go like so hand in hand
Yeah,
together
hand in
here.
hand, yeah.
Yeah.
So with this
Right.
being said, then, sorry, just a very quick one.
Yeah.
Minimum price. With this being said, when you went into April, you could very clearly
Yeah.
and instantly see
Yeah.
dates that were available were at the lower price. And you said, well, maybe if we tweak it a little bit and lower it just a little bit, it may have a result in booking. With something
Yeah.
like this, and from what the data is showing you here, what would you say would be a recommended price just to maybe lower it to? Are we talking maybe like a couple of dollars? Like what we sort of saying here when it
Yeah.
comes to that minimum?
So when we talk about the base price, we have this tool that shows you like, okay, upscale, 6-bedroom, 5-bedroom, whatnot. Now we are talking about specific dates. And for those, if you want to get more intelligence on like what's happening in the market, we generally say, let's go to this neighborhood data tab where we give fairly detailed information about what's happening on each date, pretty much like how is the market charging on different dates, uh, how is the market priced on different dates and things like that. So let's look at this. So this red line is the occupancy. So like going until sort of mid-April, early April, it's pretty solid, and then it starts falling off, right? This is the market occupancy.
Yeah.
And if you look at CUNY's occupancy, even that, like these big solid gray blocks are nights that are occupied. So like till April 16th, he's pretty solidly booked. The market is also doing pretty solidly well. And then there are these periods where like things are a little lean. And those periods are where the top chart is now price. The black line is showing you that the price till April end are pretty high, the prices, and then they start going down as the occupancy is going down. But this straight line is when they start hitting that minimum price, right? We generally tend to say that when the bands that you see behind are sort of the what are the market prices. So the light pink is like the higher end prices. The dark pink is sort of the middle band, and then the gray one is the lower end. And of course, there's some other stuff above on each end as well. CUNY is not like singularly higher than everybody else in the market, but what this is showing is we generally say when it is high season, when a lot of things are going to get booked, you want, if you're an upscale property, you want to be up there. But when it is low season or when things are going to be not as booked, you might want to descend into the middle territory. So like the reason is if 90% of the market is going to get booked or 80% of the market is going to get booked, you can be priced a little higher than you would at a normal time of the year, and still get booked. Everything is going to go off the market, like almost everything. If you're a good enough property with good reviews on your listing, things
Yeah.
are fine.
I was going to say,
And in low season,
I was just very quickly, I was going to say that if anybody's watching and is worried about that, then there's always a way of getting the price back up per night with upsells. So people do like sort of they sort of dismiss upsells really quickly and say it won't make a difference, or they think, oh well, if I add an upsell, that's just going to be extra revenue. But if you're going $20 less on your normal rate, that will mean you get the booking, and then as soon as they book, you can then say, would you like our upsell of whatever that would be? And you can mark it up so you can make that money back.
Yeah. One thing I will say is, although those dates are sitting at their minimum, they are also a little farther away. And what might as well happen is as the dates get closer, somebody will book those off. So like, although I'm saying, hey, look, maybe if you want to proactively book, maybe lower it. There is also some level of risk tolerance associated here to say like, okay, like maybe I'll hold off till I'm closer.
So here's the next question, and I think I know what you're going to do, but is there a way where we're how many days out now? About a month away, so 4 weeks away from this. Is there a way that we can, with the lower price, can we reduce the rate, and then the closer it gets to that date, then the price then starts to go back up to its normal base price or the normal price that we see?
Yeah, there are a couple of things that can be done. Remember, the minimum price is $239 here.
Yeah.
What I'm not going to save any of this.
Yeah.
But what you could do is you could say, look, let's be okay with 220. Let's say that at 220, if I get a booking, I'm still profitable. As long as I'm not losing money on a booking, it's okay to take it, right? But you could say 239 is still sort of some mental threshold or barrier to say, ideally, I would want that, right? Let's say what you can do is, sorry, wrong place. You can say if a date is more than 2 months out, I want that minimum price to be 239. So
Yeah.
don't start selling April 2024 at 230 just yet, or even May for 230. But once a date is within 60 days, now use my minimum price of 220. So you can create these two tiers in some ways to say, my minimum price can change depending on how far out it is. And same thing with prices themselves. And some of these things are automatically being applied, like last minute discounts and occupancy adjustments. So like there are things that are automatically in place to say, if a date is, so suppose these sets of dates stay unbooked as you get closer and closer, what would happen is that these health numbers will start looking worse. And that in itself, like our base price recommendations want to see those health numbers be bad for a few weeks to say, okay, we should make a change. Like at the drop of a hat, it's not going to say, let's change your base price like suddenly.
Yeah.
But what we do have is what you, and these are on by default. You can say in the next 15 days, if I'm less than 10% booked, for those 15 days, automatically drop the price.
Yeah.
They're still going to stick to your minimum price. So like if it's 239 now and it stays unbooked, it's not like it will go any lower because your minimum is 239. But if you actually end up changing your minimum to 220, then maybe it'll drop down gradually.
Yeah.
There is some benefit to that from an OTA perspective as well, because when the prices drop for dates that have not booked, they start showing with some promotion or things like that as well.
Lovely.
Cool.
Lovely. So yeah, so that's fantastic. So basically we can look at those dates, and obviously it's saying here that over 3 days we're about 94%, which is great. But we ideally know that, you know, these dates here are Sunday to Wednesday. It could be after spring break, but we want to get them to be proactive in getting them booked. And if we looked at the market data that we did, and we saw that little line just underneath, it was sort of teetering probably around the 221 mark, like we said, 220 sort of mark. If we drop the price to that, then it may proactively get it booked, but we don't want anybody booking that lower price too far out. So if we could change it to say 30 days out, anything booked after 30 days, at least that minimum of whatever it was. But because we want to be proactively booking what could be seen as a slow time, we want to be able to minimum put those dates at that price to get it booked. But as soon as it passes that threshold, then we're sort of doing it at that rate.
If you want to be like, if you for whatever reason know that, hey, look, so let me see, we're in April here. Okay, so let's say you say, for whatever reason, that these dates, I'm absolutely sure this is very low demand. I've seen the data itself, not going to book, and you say, I want to proactively reduce this one. You could go and say, okay, only for this period, make the minimum price 220.
Yeah.
So you can proactively do those things, or you can create rules to do those things depending on how far out it is and things like that.
Yeah. Brilliant.
The other thing that was very curious to me, I guess not the right phrase, I was very curious about is the fact that there seems to be Thursday, Friday 2-night reservations here. And they're only 2 back to back, I guess, in some ways. But what they mean is that this Saturday night, which generally tend to be in demand, ends up sitting empty here. So I was trying to see like what could be done to avoid this, because by taking a 2-night reservation here, you have effectively broken down your weekend. You have split your weekend now, right? Like you could have taken a single weekend booking there, and now you don't. And I do see that he has a 3-night minimum for Fridays and Saturdays. Let's review these settings. Yeah, so what he's done is he said, let's do a 2-night minimum on weekdays and 3 nights on weekends. And then last minute, he didn't actually have to create this rule because it's the exact same rule. It's saying when a night is within the last 2, like in the next 2 days, weekdays should be 2 and weekends should be 3, which is the exact same thing as here. So it's not going to do anything. Most of the times, what we generally recommend, and actually let's see what we're recommending. This will be fun. So what we actually seem to be recommending, and this is what I kind of knew about Orlando as well. Orlando is a long stay market. Like people come here with their kids to go to Disney or Universal Studios and whatnot, and they stay for a long time. So like what we seem to be saying is bump up your minimum stay to much longer, and then last minute as dates get closer, that's when you want to start lowering it. So that's something to consider. Like just looking at his existing bookings, let's also see the portfolio analytics. Just want to see, like, because on the calendar I'm able to see that. So I don't know if he has blocked the calendar here or if it is booked. I want to see from portfolio analytics what's happening.
Yeah, I'm going to go look. So the 27th and the 28th of April.
Yeah.
From what I can see back on here, there is a booking that is coming.
Okay.
2 nights. 27th and 28th of April. Yep. So that's a 2-night booking arriving on the Thursday, checking out on the Saturday, which is what we're seeing here.
Yeah.
So obviously it's and that was booked. That was booked on the 8th of March. So the 8th of March was last week. We're obviously recording this on the 13th. Yeah. But yeah. So that was a
perfect
far out booking and it booked for 2 nights.
Yeah. So I want to show like a few different things here. One is the easiest. This is sort of almost to me a no-brainer to avoid. And this is one of those things where I don't know why OTAs do it the way they do it. Because if you have a minimum stay of 3 nights here, you would think on Friday that if a booking has to go over Friday, it has to be 3 nights long. But that's not how OTAs work now. They used to, when like many years back, that way.
Yeah.
But now all they do is they check when the guest is checking in, what's the minimum stay, and it's 2 nights. Sure, 2 nights are allowed, right? So although he has set his weekends to be 3, these kinds of bookings are possible. So like the first thing I would ask him to do is include Thursday in that 3-night weekend booking. And let me see where that setting is, right here. So instead of having the weekend setting applied to only Fridays and Saturdays, I would say apply it on the Thursday as well. And that would make sure that the minimum night here is 3. And that way, if anybody is starting a booking on Thursday, they have to book at least till Sunday, check out on Sunday. So you're not splitting your weekend anymore, right?
Massively, yeah. For somewhere like Orlando as well, that's key. It was really interesting that PriceLabs is saying a minimum stay of 6 nights.
Of 6 nights, yeah. So I want to dig into that one. First, I want to see what has CUNY been getting, right? So like he has been getting, his length of stay that he's been getting has mostly been 3 to 4 nights, and equal number of nights are booked with a 2-night stay and a 5 to 6 night stay. And we're looking at total book nights. That's important because if you look at total number of bookings, 2 nights will tower up, because even though so there are probably 9 bookings here and there are probably 3 bookings here, right?
Yeah.
So like if you look at by number of bookings, it will look like, yeah, I'm getting a ton of 2-night bookings, but that's not necessarily the right way. You should look at by number of nights. But even here, like the recommendation we had was a lot more aggressive than what he has been getting, right? Now there could be 2 reasons for this. One is our recommendations are generally based on what do we see in the market. So next I'm going to pull up the market as well. And then 2, CUNY's numbers are going to be impacted by what his settings are. So if he's allowing 2 and 3 night settings, then he will get those 2 and 3 night bookings. And as he gets those, there is now lesser chance of getting this 5 and 6 night bookings, right? So but regardless, like we are recommending 6, I would say let's not jump to it. Let's say when it is more than 60 days out, let's keep it 5, then make it 4, and then make it 3 nights within 30 or 40 days. Don't completely depart from what you had, but make incremental changes and see if they help. Like that's generally our advice in anything. But
can we sorry to interrupt, but can we see as well from this data what his average lead time is, as in from the point of the booking to the point of arrival?
Correct. So there are some KPIs on up top here, and I'm like, let's see, from Jan all the way till March end, or let's say April end, for all the bookings in that period, he has 23 bookings. The average length of stay is 3.3 and average lead time is 22. 22 days, right? So so that's aggregate numbers. Those are helpful, but don't always paint the entire picture. There is this neat section called length of stay and booking window, which actually breaks it out. It says, what's the booking window? How many days do you get booked? How far out? And it's saying 20 of your stays, 20 of the nights got booked more than 2 to 4, between 2 to 4 months out. 16. It's like it gives you a distribution. It generally tends to say very little stuff happens last minute, and very little stuff seems to be happening very far out. You're right in the middle window of like 2 weeks to 4 months, right? And same story here with length of stay and things like that.
So with that being said, then if we're going to go through the rules that PriceLabs have suggested, we would say that anything more than 30 days, you would recommend a minimum of 6 nights, say. And then as soon as it gets closer to that 4 weeks, you're going to then say 4 nights.
I think it had 3 nights or something like that.
Yeah, and then so eventually when we get into that stay restrictions, so basically anything more than far out, so anything more than 90 nights, 7 nights, anything last minute, and we're including last minute within 29 nights, it then drops down to to 3. And we're sort of saying that the Thursday, I think I would definitely recommend to him to go for this, like suggest this, and then make sure his Thursday is classed as a weekend.
Yeah, I would want to say start a little, like we'll look at the market data that's suggesting this, but like other things, it's not always like okay to just go make an extreme change because of this. I would say go with 4 nights and 3 nights on the weekdays. Like make that incremental change rather than sort of a big change, and then see what that helps with, right?
Yeah.
That would generally be my recommendation here. Now, looking at market data, I did see if he had created a market dashboard already or not. He has 1 credit left. I will let him create this one. I pulled out another market for the same area, and I was looking at sort of the similar data for the entire region. And did I filter out? No, I think let's stick to 4 to 7 bedroom. homes to stay comparable to what he has.
Yeah.
Want to get a sense of like those two things, like the lead time and the length of stay. Like, are they wildly different? Are they a little different? Like, what are they? Cool. In terms of booking window, I think he's getting bookings right where these numbers were pretty much zero for him. The market does have a little bit there, but the meat of it is in the same window that he's getting. So that's fine. This I did know, like the Orlando market gets a ton of these 7 to 14. Like people book a week or 10 days and just go there.
Well, it makes sense because, you know, and again, the majority, because we get every single guest to fill in a Google form. And one of the things we've implemented into the business is in the Google form, it asks, you know, a couple of questions, the name, obviously the email, but we ask how many people in your party, what was the deciding factor in why you picked us as your place to stay, and are you celebrating a special occasion? And everybody is saying Magic Kingdom, everybody's saying Disney, spring break, kid's birthday. And when you come to do Disney, as you know, if anybody's been to the Orlando one, it's not small. You need at least 3 days to even scratch the surface. So for that, and then if you throw into like Universal and all the other things, you know, you're talking 5 days before you've even, you know, got a chance to do anything else. So that window there, that 5 to 14 days, that makes a ton of sense to me.
Yeah, so that might be why our recommendation was like, hey, do 6. There's plenty of 6-night demand that you'll fill up your calendar with that.
Yeah.
Again, not something that like, this is true with anything, like even price wise, we generally say, if you have been running something and running it well, you don't want to like jump to a completely new setting. You want to slowly get there. So like see if it helps or not. So which is why I'm saying like, don't jump to 6. Go to 4, like make it a 4-night minimum outside of 30 nights, 3-night within, and see what starts happening, right?
Yeah. I think the main thing for him, I think you hit the nail on the head. Make Thursday your weekend, the start of your weekend.
That's a no-brainer. I think that's
a no-brainer. Go anything more than 30 days out, make it minimum stay at 4 nights, because again, there's only one property, right? And I say this a lot. When you've got one property, and say that your minimum stay is 7 nights, you've only got 50 bookings in a year to take. You better take 2 weeks for maintenance and cleaning and whatnot. So you've only got to find 50 bookings. And if you're then putting everything down to 3 nights, then you've got to find 100 bookings because you're making your life a lot harder then. And when you get orphan dates, like the dates that we've seen, like those ones and twosies, they're so hard to fill, where you could be cheeky and you could be cute and you could be clever and you could start to message people and say, hey, you've got the 2 nights, but would you like to upgrade it to 4, etc. But at the point of booking, if you can capture those people that are looking, and if you use the data correctly, I mean, obviously Kearney's is brand new to this. He's probably gone and put 3-night stay because he thought minimum 3-night stay, that's what everybody's doing. But when you look behind the scenes of PriceLabs and you set up the basics, and then you go the next step down, which is, it's amazing that we can do this now, is that you can go, oh, this is actually what the data is telling us. This is why it's telling us. And this is what everybody else is doing. So you get that extra level of confidence that you can do that next step instead of just sort of plucking a number out of the sky and hoping for the best.
Brilliant. What else shows up?
What was with the amenities one that I saw on that chart that you were the report that you had, there was something with amenities. If you could just quickly walk us through that one, because I think that's going to be important.
Got it. So amenities chart is essentially, we show 2 things. One is what's common. So you'll see that a lot of numbers here are very close to 100%. Like almost every home in this region has Wi-Fi. Like that's no surprise.
That's a no-brainer.
Right? Every home has TV, every home has kitchen, every home has pool. What you'll also see is there are 2 numbers here. One is about supply and one is about demand. So the supply number is, it's saying 99.58% of the listings have a kitchen, which, I mean, if it's a short-term rental property, yes. And we're talking here like 4 to 7 bedroom properties. So like there are a solid 0.4% properties that haven't listed kitchen as an amenity on Airbnb here. The second one is saying, what is the demand? So it's saying 99.9% of bookings are happening on a property that has a kitchen. So those 0.4% of listings that haven't listed kitchen as an amenity are hardly getting any bookings, which is not a surprise. Like, I mean, if somebody shows up to book, the assumption would be that there's a kitchen, but if you're not listed it, they'll still want to question it. The useful sometimes thing to look at is desired amenities. And sometimes very mundane stuff shows up here just because of how things work, and I'll go to that. But this is a useful one that shows up here. A pack and play or a travel crib. It's saying it has a desirability score of 7.2%, which basically means maybe half the properties have it, but the number of like 50% of the properties have it, but something like 57.2% of the bookings are done on a property with a travel crib because people are looking for it.
Yeah.
Right. Now I said, so this one actually seems like it now that I see it, it makes sense. Like people are coming here for Disney. They probably have a younger sibling. Sometimes mundane stuff shows up like shampoo and cable TV, which is essentially the good properties tend to list a lot of things, amenities on their prop thing, and so turns out people tend to book shampoo as well. But high chair, barbecue grill, hot tub, like generally speaking, it gives you a sense of like, okay, what could be something that I add to my property. This doesn't mean that you go add shampoo and start expecting a 6% bump in your bookings. But this is more to like spark some.
It's about like confirming the assumptions, and it just makes sense. And again, if you've got more beds and you've got a large place and you're near Disney, which is very catered towards smaller children, there's a very high chance that in that party there is going to be somebody under the age of 2, where a travel crib, high chair makes a ton of sense.
Yeah,
brilliant. Just confirms assumptions. This is fantastic. We can definitely take this to CUNY and we can implement it, and we'll be able to sort of see in 6 months' time what the difference has been. Because like I say, if we can help earn $20-30 extra on a booking over the course of a year, that makes it a big improvement on the P&L, the profit and loss.
Absolutely, yeah.
Lovely, appreciate that. So we're going to look at the base, we're going to look at the minimum, we're going to look at the night stays. I'll feed this all back to CUNY. We'll look to implement some things, and we'll report back after the summer. All
right, that's super cool. Thanks, Mark.
Appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Having a blast. Gonna get it on the Bruce Lee podcast. Bruce Lee like Bruce Lee, cause it's so hard and the T is loose leaf. Making up those rhymes, don't write it, just do it loosely.